All right, you ready? This video is on simplifying rational expressions. You may say, what is a rational expression? A rational expression basically is a fraction. A rational expression has the word ratio in it, and a ratio is a fraction. So whenever you see rational expression, you should think, oh, I'm dealing with fractions. Also, the word expression is important because an expression is different than an equation. You solve an equation and you simplify expressions. Expressions do not have equal signs, and we treat them a little bit differently. So one of the examples in section 7.1 is to simplify this fraction. Only this is a different kind of fraction than you've seen before, in that it has polynomials in it. And one of the first parts of the chapter is they talk about the domain. And one of the things that what domain means is, what are the possible x values? You're like, well, x could be anything. But in this case, because this fraction has a denominator, it can't be anything because we cannot divide by 0. So what we need to do to find the domain is we need to figure out what makes this denominator 0. And from the last chapter, we know how to do that. So what we really need to do is factor this. So this turns into 3 minus x on the top. And the denominator, that's a trinomial with 3 terms, and it factors into x minus 3 times x minus 3. So what would make this denominator 0? It would be where this factor is 0 or where this factor is 0. Remember the equations setting them equal to 0. So our domain is that x cannot equal 3, because if we put in a 3 here, it'll be 3 minus 3, which would make the denominator 0. So we just need to know that for this one. So the next thing we want to do is cancel common factors, and these are really, really close. And one of the concepts that they bring up in this section is if you factor out a -1 from this, it flips the order of subtraction. So if I take out a -1 from here, what it does is it changes this into a -3 and then into a positive x. So basically turns into x minus 3. And the denominator is x minus 3 times x minus 3. And so what sometimes I do in my class is I come in and I say, haha, I'm the mad slasher, and I get to cancel common factors. You can't cancel these two x's. It's one of my tips. You can't cancel individual terms because anything that's next to a plus or minus is not a factor. So this is a factor and this is a factor, so those are identical. We could have canceled either one. So our final answer with this one, the numerator would be a -1 because we used a -1 to switch the order of subtraction. We factored it out, and the denominator is x minus 3, and that is a simplified expression. So the 3 tips: how to switch order of subtraction. You factor out a -1 to find the domain. You factor the denominator and you set each factor equal to 0 to figure out what x cannot be. And then in order to reduce the fraction, we can only cancel factors, not individual terms. All right, go for it. See you later.